Good morning, everyone. As Cedric said, I'm in the management team of the IT team that looks after all assets, applications, which run what we call cash management and cards. That means that if you do a payment, if you get a reporting, a statement, you have an account within BNP Paribas, one of my teams looks after you. Okay, that's what we do. So we don't do credits, we don't do investment, we don't do global markets, but day-to-day banking we do for you guys, and we do for companies, small, medium, and very, very large enterprises, okay? So that's what I look after. Now, it would be great to be able to talk to you guys about innovation, about digital payments and stuff like that. But what I'm going to talk today about is quality, operational quality. Okay, that's one of the things I look into the management team. Okay. What I'm going to talk to you about is two experiences I looked into. I was previously working in Belgium within what we call BNP Paribas Fortis, looking after the payment teams within Belgium. And for my sins, Paris asked me to come over to Paris and do the same kind of thing out of Paris, okay? And so we have two experiences. For non-Europeans, you may have a feeling that Belgium and France is the same thing. Culturally, you would be amazed. It's 300 kilometers, but sometimes it's like talking between Australians and Americans. It's amazing. So what I'm going to try and do in my presentation is not so much talk about the methods, but more about the results and really how culture and teams can really make a difference in the way it's been implemented across the BNP, okay? Now, just to give you an idea about cash management and payments and cards and all that kind of stuff, what you need to realize is that BNP runs about somewhere between 8 and 12% of all of the European economy, okay, in their systems. So every day we have about 10% of the European economy going through payments in and out of different banks, either our own or someone else's. And if I take a country like France or Belgium, we're peaking at about 30-40% of all of the economy going through our systems, okay? And so the problem with incidents is it's the problem of electricity, okay? What I do is very boring, okay? I work in a company which is relatively boring, okay? What we do is we just need to make sure that things run correctly, okay? And statistically speaking, that is correct, okay? But unfortunately, it's the one incident which really cause problems, okay? If you don't get paid of the month, basically I get the CFO calling me and telling me, you know, why hasn't it been paid, okay? If we don't pay tax payments, if we don't pay suppliers, I get a lot of pain and a lot of anguish, okay? So unfortunately, my role is not to do great customer journeys. My role is basically to get told off by customers because we haven't done what we're supposed to do as an kind of a basic facility of the economy, okay? So what I'm going to talk about is trying to reduce the aggravation for our customers, okay? I'm very sorry it doesn't sound very sexy, it's not very innovation, it's not very digital, but honestly, it's really what makes our customers tick. It's just making sure that their payments come in and out on time, okay? Now, what I'm going to explain is basically what was similar between the two approaches and what differed in terms of the approaches. And you're going to appreciate some of the different ways of implementing lean within BNP Paribas. Okay. Now, we have the Belgium side, the northern side, and we have the right side, let's say the southern approach in lean. Okay. Now, what happened within Fortis is that the introduction of lean within BNP Paribas Fortis was due to the worst incident I have ever seen. Okay. Now, what we did is that we requested 2 times a pack of direct debits in the market, okay? Now you may say, what's so big? So instead of requesting 11 million direct debits, we requested 22 million, okay? And instead of requesting 1.6 billion euros, we requested 3.2 billion euros, okay? And it took a lot of time to clean up, a lot of time, okay? That was back in October 2014. And so the incident actually came from the teams itself, okay? The teams, the bottom-up approach really worked within BNP Paribas Fortis. As Marie-Pierre said this morning, the teams were really fed up of cleaning up their daily mess. And so they really wanted to get better at catering for their day-to-day operations and making sure that they could breathe a bit more and spend less time cleaning up their problems, okay? So a great effort from all of the teams concerned, okay? And because we had such a big incident, we were pushed from the regulators and from the central banks and stuff like that to put in a team which was centrally, hierarchically directed, okay? So we were managing it as one hierarchical team, okay? That was the Belgium context. Now, if I look on the side of the France, okay, of BNP Paribas France, a bit of a different approach. Now, what the French saw in Belgium, they thought, okay, we're going to try and implement the same, but it was a purely top-down implementation, okay? So Thierry Laborte, number 3 in the bank, said, this is what I want, and this is an objective of incident reduction I want per year, okay? So dictated from the top, and the teams had to take the objective by the EXCO, okay? So different way of doing it, and also the teams remained in the local entities, okay? So we were doing program management, so I look after the teams functionally, but I do not have the hierarchical hand on the teams, okay? Now, you may say it doesn't make much of a difference. In Belgium, teams can work in an agile, lean way, relatively flexible way. In the French culture within BNP Paribas, if you're not the boss, it's a bit more difficult, okay? So it makes it, the resistance to change is a bit harder on the French side than it was on the Belgium side. That's for the differences. Now, there were some things which were very, very common in both organizations, okay? Now, the first thing, and it may make you laugh, basically the project managers had taken over the companies, okay? So what was happening is that the day-to-day operations and the quality of what we deliver every day to our customers was not so important. What was important was digital transformation, was new stuff, you know, shiny stuff. It had to be new. You had to be able to explain it in a lift pitch up to the CEO. You had to be young and dynamic. But explaining day-to-day quality was not seen as something which was very valued and valuable within the company, okay, on both sides. The other thing, and that Marie-Pierre talked about this morning also, is that we only did 1 to 2 releases per year because we were only interested in bringing in a new shiny stuff at the end of the year or just before the holidays, okay? So there was a real culture of the whole organization which was geared towards projects and not so much geared towards day-to-day operations and making sure that we would bring small improvements continuously within the organization, okay? First big thing. The second big thing, and it may scare some of you who are in industry and stuff like that, is that actually we weren't very good at monitoring what was going through our systems, okay? You have to know from BNP Paribas, it's a real patchwork of IT. So you have some central teams, you have local teams, you have IT which is central, IT which is local. You have a lot of old mainframe stuff. You have a lot of open systems. You have a lot of stuff, a lot of diversity within the teams. And honestly, not many people knew what was happening from an end-to-end point of view. So if you brought in 100 to start with, only a few people knew if you actually made it out with the 100 at the end of the day. So there was a lack of end-to-end monitoring within the organizations. Okay, second point. The third thing is, and I'm talking more about the small incidents, the kind of the irritants, the annoying small incidents, is that there are too many of them. Okay, the teams can't see the trees in the woods anymore, as they say in French. They can't see individual incidents anymore, and the incidents are not grouped into what we call Paretos. So we don't group them. So we see them still as very much individual incidents, which caused a large problem when you try and resolve them, root cause them, and fix them. Okay, so that's the third thing which was really impacting. And then the fourth thing, it's obvious to say, we talk a lot about the teams, but there was a great blame culture within both organizations at the time. And so the idea is that the team spent more time finding someone else who they can blame than actually trying to solve the solution, okay? So a lot of time saying, it's not me, it's someone else. Culture of justification, many reports explaining why they were not at fault and someone else was. So a lot of culture paralyzed the organization. So that this is the things which are common within both organizations. Okay, hopefully I can convince you we got much better since. We're statistically speaking, our incidents are very low. So I want to reassure you, we're a trusted bank. You can send us your payments. Now, what did we do? Okay, quality tricks. I'm going to be very practical, okay? It's very down-to-earth stuff. The first thing we did is that it was mentioned a lot this morning. Honestly, we got a bit tired of people saying, I don't have the budget to do it, okay? Or I don't have the capacity to do it. Or any excuse that they can have was always, I do not have the money to have it, okay? And so what we did as a management team is we said, okay, we're going to basically take 15-20% of the budget, and it can only be used for quality improvements, okay? So I don't want any projects which cost 2 million, 1 million, 5 million. I don't want that. I only want small pieces of work which will improve the quality of our day-to-day operations, okay? So we took about 15%, depending on the different teams and different ITs, and basically it cut the first disagreement with the teams over the fact that they did not have any money to do it. Okay, so that was the first thing we did as a management team. The second thing we did as a management team is that we started to monitoring transactions end to end. Okay, now. Relatively simple to say, actually quite complicated to do, because within our organization, we basically had it at 4 levels, okay? You had the real IT stuff, so the machines, making sure the servers didn't break down, the links are there, the CFTs, the MQs, and all that is up and running. So the basic hygiene of the network and making sure the machines are working. The second thing is that we needed to check that our assets were running, application-wise, making sure that they're up and running, making sure that there's no queue overflowing in terms of things to fix and to execute and stuff like that. So on a purely asset point of view. And then 2 things we added is that we added what we call business monitoring. So we make sure that if 100 go in, 100 go out, okay? Very simple to say, very difficult to implement, but we've made it finally by doing it, okay? And the fourth one is we put in a place a monitoring per customer, okay? So our big customers, our critical customers, the customers that complain a lot, the customers that do difficult things and stuff like that, we have a real focused monitoring on what our customers do, okay? And so we can make sure that if we see something happening for that specific customer, we can call him or intervene before it actually impacts us, okay? So that's what we did in terms of monitoring. For the moment, what we're doing is we're including not only the reactive stuff, but we're also going for proactive. So we're bringing in, well, let's call it machine learning, data, AI and that kind of stuff. So we're being a bit better at being predictive. So we're starting to see patterns in what we see in terms of incidents to be able to react before the customers see it. So we're bringing in some kind of intelligence and proactivity into the monitoring of the stuff we're doing, which is also helping us to detect incidents. Okay, it only detects the incidents. It doesn't fix them. It only detects them. Now, once you've detected them, you become better at being able to fix them, okay? Because if you don't detect them and you don't list them, per definition, you can't act on them, okay? So what we did is we monitored, we really listed all of the incidents that we had, and then basically we started implementing Lean and Agile to make sure that we would fix them, okay? And now I'll just put in the two main things we do. I won't go into the method of Lean and Agile. There's many people in the room here which are much, much better than me at doing it, so I won't try and go into it. But what we first did is, it's very, very basic and it's very simple, is that we put the teams together, okay? So whether that means together physically in the same room, or it means physically with the development teams in India, with the development teams in south of Africa and stuff like that, we physically joined the teams together, okay? So we used video conferences, we used all sorts of the new technology to make sure that the teams focus and do huddles on incident reduction, okay? The first thing we did. Now, what we really push these teams to do is to fix the incidents by themselves, okay? Because what we suffered a bit in BNP about is it's relatively hierarchical as a team, okay? So the teams had a habit of having to ask their boss, who had to ask their boss, who had to ask their boss if they could do something. And what we try to do is to delegate as much as possible for the teams to be able to fix themselves, okay? Now, as you can imagine, that causes a lot of tension with the managers, okay, and the team leads, because these guys become independent, and we ask them to be independent. But of course, when it comes to the reporting side, the managers have then difficulty telling people what they're doing and what their aim was. And so there's a bit of a culture change in terms of the layers of the organization to make sure that these teams can work independently and actually really be efficient in the reduction of the incidents, okay? That's the first point, which is important. The second thing is, coming back to my 2 releases per year, is that we speeded up the release, okay? We speeded up the releases. Now, within a year and a half, we went from having 1 release per year to being at a release every week, okay? In a year and a half, approximately. Now, for us, that was a fantastic success, okay? When I started, it was mainly on mainframe. People told me, you have no chance in hell to get anything done within a year, okay? But we were able to really push the teams to get down to 1 a week, okay? And probably what's the most remarkable with this is that, as Marie-Pia said this morning, after 9 months, they were only dealing with their stock of the last month. And so what they started doing is bringing in new value for customers, okay? And instead of waiting for a year and a half for things to come into production, we started to slice things so that it came in much quicker, okay? And so we were not only dealing with incidents, but we were also dealing with what customers wanted and things like that. And so within 9 months a year, after the backlog had gone down of the incidents, and we had a mechanism of doing weekly releases, we really started to bring value in for the customers, which was a really, really great kind of a sidekick of introducing this method into the teams, okay? Very good. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some results, okay? Now, I've on purposely let them keep them ugly, okay? Because they are the real results that we showed the team when we were presenting it. So they are ugly, and that's the point, okay? I'm not trying to make them any much nicer. Remembering this is 40, so I'm sorry, we're talking about 2015, 2016. So as you can see, when we started, we had about 30 incidents every month. Large incidents. We're talking about ugly incidents. So salary payments missed, tax payments missed, lots of customers impacted, stuff like that. So we were talking about ugly ones. After a year, we got down to about 18, and I am very, very happy to announce to you that this year, within Fortis, they're turning around two incidents every month. Okay, so a great achievement, okay, a great achievement. The bad news is that I can't get much lower than one a month, okay, that's the big problem. I'm having difficulty without really putting a big investment to bring down to zero, if you see what I mean. So what we're doing is, for the moment, we're getting much better at monitoring them, so we bring down the impact of the customer. So we have much less incidents which impact severely our customers. But unfortunately, unless I do a big technology or a big investment, I can't get much lower than this. And that's another lesson for you guys. There is always a kind of a threshold in the number of incidents you can reduce. Okay, so you always aim for zero, but the reality is it kind of goes down relatively slowly at the end. It will be even better illustrated on this one. Basically, blue was 2015 and red was 2016. P1, P2 are the major incidents on the left-hand side, and the P3, P4 are the minor incidents. My favorite incidents are P5s, okay, I'll tell you why. What we define as a P5 is an incident we detect and we fix before the customer sees it, okay? So it's an incident which we deal with without you guys seeing that we've had an incident, okay? So what I aim for is to really reduce the maximum of the top ones, obviously, and basically to move the P4 and P3s and P4s into a P5 as much as possible. Because even if it costs us internally to fix it, at least you guys are not impacted by the incident. Okay, so what we're trying to do is move it into P5. Now, as you can see, the evolution between 2 years, and I've seen it within BDDF also, is that the first year, we reduced the major incidents, okay? But by reducing the major incidents, because people start declaring more and more incidents, you get more and more minor incidents. And basically, that's the killer, okay? It's the middle layer of incidents, which in our case, if they're taken at the wrong time of the wrong day, at the wrong moment of the year, can really kill us, okay? So it's very important from now onwards to also work on the kind of the belly part, you know, the small incidents, the incidents which cause very little impact, but are very, very numerous and can cause a lot of aggro to customers, but very, very annoying irritants all the time, okay? So that's a key lesson also. Incidents, major ones you can reduce, but don't forget to go for the minors and the near misses, as we call them within BNP. Okay, just this as an example, again, a very ugly slide, I'm sorry for that. What we did is we grouped the incidents within Fortis. So what we did is we had a lot of technical bends, as they call. So basically, jobs fall down, break down, someone needs to restart them, you know, simple stuff. If it happens on a Sunday at 2 o'clock, has no impact. If it happens 10 minutes before we need to start the payment chain, it basically causes a massive impact, okay? So what we're trying to do here is to really reduce root causes, which is 1, but have a massive amount of incidents which are fixed to it. Okay, so we try and group the incidents, one root cause, and make sure that with one root cause you get rid of 10, 15% of the incidents you have in your stock. Okay, very, very important to do that. Okay, and basically 2007 was not zero, but it got down. And so I think within Fortis now they're turning at around, I think it's 20, 30 per month in terms of the backlog. Okay, now within that was the Fortis side, that was the Belgium side. Within the French side, again, very much dictated from the top. Okay, so a very dictatorial, hierarchical way of doing it. And basically, the top three of the bank said, I want minus 20% major incidents out every year. Okay, now magically in France, if the boss says, it happens, okay? In Belgium, if the boss says something, per definition, it will not happen, okay? In France, it is amazing. It is amazing. So we started off beginning of 2017 with a full year of about 123 incidents. And basically mid-year this year, we're at 36 and we should be at 39. So we're doing 3 incidents better than what we were expected to do in terms of objective. Okay, now it's kind of difficult to know how it happens. Okay, it's kind of a bit of magic, but it happens. Okay, it happens. So very, very top down, very dictatorial, and it works within a French culture. Okay, it doesn't work in Belgium, but it works in the French culture. Now, and again, very, very specific, I find, to the way of doing it within France, is that there was a question about HR objectives. Within BNP Paribas France, they've actually introduced that as an HR objective, okay? So that every team lead has as an objective to reduce by 20% of the incidents in terms of their objective, HR objectives, okay? In Belgium, if I had tried to do that, I would have been discussing with the unions for about 50 years. But for some reason here, it works. So you define it in an HR objective, the boss says, and it works. It's amazing. It's amazing. Within Fortis, the truth is that I was in my little world of incidents, and so I didn't spend much time communicating towards the board and the members of the executive committee and stuff like that, what we were doing. It was very much a top-down approach, very much work with the teams and making sure that the teams felt much better about their job. Within Paris, because it came from top-down, there was a lot of attention to communication on the objective, okay? And again, it's amazing how the top of the bank has really taken up the story about the minus 20% objective, okay? And there is not one communication which goes out in one of the big seminars with all of the guys, you know, with the big bosses telling it, where the Thierry Laborde, the number 3, does not say minus 20% on incidents, we've reached it, important to do, and stuff like that. It's amazing. The impact of the communication on the teams has been really, really strong within Paris compared to the effort I had put into Belgium. So very, very surprising. For me, a great way of making sure things happen. Huh? So always use, in certain cultures, the top-down. It works much better than in other organizations where it's a bit more fluffy. Okay, there you go. That's my presentation. That's me doing some real work with the teams, just to show that we actually worked on the PDCAs and the others. Great experience, okay? So from both sides of the border, up north and down south, some really, really, really great results. We kind of technically migrated from lean to agile because of the fashion at the time, but I think that both methods and both ways of working can really, really help the teams to bring down the number of incidents. I thank you for your time and attention.